Yeah, it's there on the left.
Every time I turn around, I
Thank you, Sandy. That was just beautiful. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. My name is Jan Freistack, and I'm honored to be your service leader today. I'd like to begin by sharing the words of UU minister Libby Stoddard, which speaks to some of the reasons that we assemble here each week. We have come into this room of hope where our hearts and minds are open to the future. We have come into this room of justice where we set aside our fear to freely name every oppression. We have come into this room of love where we know that no life is insignificant. We have come into this room of song where we unite our voices in both the somber and the beautiful melodies of life. We welcome one and all to join us in this room. And a special welcome to anyone who is visiting today for the first time or for the first time in a long time. It's our custom to invite you to stand and share your name and where you're from and maybe what brought you here today. Please feel free. Yeah.
I'm Lou Schilling. I haven't been here for about 9 years. I've been wrestling with, I'm going to recognize faces, but not going to remember all your names. Jamie Hanratty, papers. I'm sorting through my belongings because he invited me to come visit him. I had a near-death experience a year and a half ago.
Oh.
For those, Helene will recognize, my hemoglobin was down to 4.8. Yeah, and 12 is the minimum you should have. And both my doors were frozen shut. We had that cold, wet, rainy snow, and it cemented both my doors. It wasn't until the weather warmed up a little bit I was able to scrape underneath with a wrecking bar, and I got it open enough so that the ambulance could take me off to the hospital. Anyway, we found that my bladder cancer was actually kidney cancer. And so they took out one of my kidneys. I'm feeling much better now, and my son has invited me to go with him. So I'm disseminating all my belongings and my parents' belongings that I never got organized because the whole time I've been here, it's been since they passed, I had the cancer, and really took my strength and concentration away. So one of the reasons why I came here today is because I know people here are interested in good artwork, and I have a couple of pieces I have to sell. I have medical bills I'm raising money for. One is a blank. Bridget Austin. It's a really good one. I mean, of all her paintings, this one I think is the premium one. Anyway, I had pictures of all of them. Doris White, Ruth Philippon, a number of good pieces, and I had taken photos of them. And then I'm planning to go to lunch with my friend Nancy Littell, and I forgot my camera. So
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'll come back next week.
Yeah. Come back next week.
What?
Come back next week and bring them. Yes.
No,
Thank you.
I'm kind of like, I have a realtor property on top of the property, and she wants me like out by the end of this month. And I've got so much to do, and ADHD, I'm having a hard time. My name is Lou, call me Lou.
Okay, Lou. Thank you, Lou. Welcome.
Oh, my parents helped found this congregation.
Oh, cool.
Hey, I'm Janet. I live down in Green Bay, raised my kids there for years, but we all live out by Lake Tappaneah. But I come back every year, and I always pop in here because I just love it.
Great. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm a brother of Karen. Is she here? My brother-in-law, Al. Just got here from Los Angeles. Al and I run the Door Kinetic Arts Festival. Some of you may know about it. We had a big kickoff event a couple of days ago. Went really well. Had a lot of fun. And I'll be back and forth, so hopefully I'll see you again.
Great. Welcome.
I'm Mary Rainslow, and I'm back again. Thank you. For the long summer. And I'm also grieving for my brother who died a month ago from prostate cancer. My other brother having died 3 years ago from the same thing.
Oh.
We have rocket tube being in the family. And I had cancer, and my sister had cancer. We all get it.
No, wait.
I'm Carol. I am Austin's mom. I am just visiting. I came to visit. I'm from Pennsylvania. And I'm really enjoying myself. I got to see a lot of nature and it's awesome.
Wonderful. Oh.
Good morning. I'm Dick Jennings, my wife Carrie. We are here from Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. And we're coming back. So we're here for 6 months.
Oh, my goodness.
Being here as often as we can. We would have been here sooner, but bronchitis got us first.
Heidi?
I'm a friend of Sam's, and I am now also a friend of Barbara's, so I'm excited to hear what she has to say.
Welcome. Okay, and I want to offer a very special welcome to Barbara Lawton. We are so excited to hear what you have to say today. She has extensive life experience, and she'll be bringing us a timely message. A few housekeeping items. Please silence your phones. And if you have difficulty hearing, just raise your hand and we will try to adjust. And please join us for coffee and conversation after the service. And then you'll hear chimes, and that'll mean it's time to come back for the talk back with Barbara here in the sanctuary. But if you're really involved in your conversation, you can continue that too. Are there any other announcements? Gwen?
Tomorrow's our final plant for out front. The climate change has a big plant. We have a start plant and a final plant, and we're going to get the last 80 little 2.5-inch cups of plants in tomorrow. And hopefully then I can get them watered and protected because the bunnies are having a...
Oh, great.
Oh, I'm sorry, what time? We're going to start at 9, from about 9 to noon or however long it takes us.
Yeah, maybe the mic.
While we're waiting for the mic, I think I can speak on Bruce Nelson, and I want to make you all aware of a program put together by the Climate Change Coalition and the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. It's a group buy of solar panels, and a designated designer and installer, that is Eland Electric, the company that did our solar panel installation here. And I'll have lots of information, got a flyer and it's up front, so after the service or during the coffee hour, talk to me and we'll have the rest of the details.
Thanks, Bruce.
There's 4 meetings coming up, and talk to me after that, and we'll have flyers with all that information.
Art Thrall's work is selling, and we have sold 3 pieces. So if you're interested, I would suggest that you probably pick something out now rather than later. The check would be written out to Win Thrall, so come to me and I'll give you all the information, okay?
Hi, I'm Marianne O'Dowd, and I just want to extend an invitation to everyone, members, friends, anybody who likes this place and hangs out here. There is a housing partnership, which is one of our community partners, is hosting just for us a special behind-the-scenes look at the new house they're building. So it's a chance to get a first-hand look at how our contributions to support this community partner are put to work. They're doing a tour and a lunch for us. They're hosting lunch at the construction site in Sister Bay on Tuesday, June 24th. It'll start at 11:30 with the tour, and then we'll get lunch, but we need to RSVP so we can give them a final count, and I hope that we can have a really good turnout. So see me, there's a sign-up sheet in the lobby, I believe. My cell phone number is on this little flyer. You can text me, call me, email me, whatever. Just let me know as soon as possible if you plan to attend.
Thanks, Marianne.
Just a quick announcement. Those of you who do get the e-blasts would have seen the unpleasant news that John Pescitt, our wonderful pianist, has had to leave. He was unable to find housing, and you know how difficult that is in Door County to find affordable housing. So he has leased an apartment in Sheboygan, and obviously that commute is way too far for him. So we wish him the best.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'd like to invite Cindy Steele to come up and light our chalice while I share the words of the Reverend Tanya Vasquez. It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world, to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Come, let us worship together. Please stand and join in the singing of hymn number 1. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. Please be seated. we find that our joys are amplified and our concerns are lessened when we share them with one another. Please keep in mind that our service is recorded and don't share about another person without their permission. Are there any joys or concerns?
I have a little concern, but more joy. Art, Anya, most of you know, she is a member of a roller derby team in Providence. And on Sunday, she fell and broke her ankle.
Oh.
But it means that I get to go out and take care of her in a week or so. So everything is fine. She got through surgery fine, and she still wants to go to roller derby.
I'm Rich Dirks, and I'm extremely grateful for the fellowship that reached out to Sandra and I during the 2 months that I was struggling with getting my life back together again. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Trish Black here with a concern to share with all of you, and yes, I do have permission to share regarding Judy Broad. Many of you have heard that she was diagnosed, and some of you may not, but she was diagnosed last Saturday with kidney cancer. And so we are all very concerned. She saw a urologist on Friday, and they believe that it's on her left kidney. It's quite large tumor. They believe that it is contained. So they believe. They looked at the ureters, the right kidney, the liver, and that's all appears to be clean. She has to have a scan this week of her lungs to make, I guess that's probably a site that it travels to. Mm-hmm. And then she will have surgery probably in early July. So it's a big wait. Good news is, I guess the joy part of it is she was well enough to make it to the Twin Cities to celebrate her granddaughter's high school graduation. So hold her in light and love, send lots of energy and positive vibes. Her last text to me on Friday after they'd seen the urologist was, "I just can't wait to get back to my life." So we hope that for her.
Yeah.
I'm Dave Studebaker. I have a joy, and Karen has a joy too, to share. This Friday we will celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary.
Now it's time for our offertory. We give because we believe in the mission of this fellowship and because it reminds us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. You can also give online at our website, uufdc.org. And if you're visiting for the first time, your presence is gift enough. Now for a moment to quiet our hearts and make space in our mind to receive Barbara's message.
Good morning. I have to tell you, I was very happy to get the invitation to come and be with you again this morning. I enjoyed it so much the last time. And I've been weighing some things heavily in knowing that this was precisely the group of thoughtful people that I would like to share this with and get your feedback and just to know that we're all thinking about these questions. So I'm going to offer you in part a very personal experience that may offer us some ways of considering how we navigate the tumultuous times that we're living today, and how do we make certain kinds of decisions. I want to be clear, this isn't a partisan but a patriotic excavation and a very deep commitment that I know that we all share, both to the integrity and the moral sense of who we are as a people, and to our country. So in 1994, we moved to Chile. My husband had been there for 2 years in the mid-60s. He had served in the Peace Corps, and now we were returning for me to continue PhD studies in Spanish. And I was so excited because I had never had the chance to live in a foreign country and be there long enough to really have to find my way, how to accommodate and learn from, and it was an extraordinary experience. So I'll first tell you a little bit about what I saw when we got there. We found very friendly people, a beautiful city on the days that the smog lifted. I've never been in such pollution where you could literally count the particles. It was so awful. No good coffee to be found in the city at that time. Nescafe, only Nescafe. An efficient metro and taxi and buses for moving around, but unreliable highway and road signs. Very aggressive drivers. It took me a while, months, to get ready for that, to brace for it, and roundabouts before we had them here. It was very interesting. Also, cell phones before we had them here. When we went there, in certain neighborhoods, everybody was walking around with a cell phone in 1994. But that was, at least in grand part, because it was very difficult. There was no reliable phone directory to be had, because it was so expensive to change the listing of your phone and to turn off and reinstall a phone that nobody ever turned them off. And you had the same phone number as anybody who had lived at that address. Everybody had to carry business cards for people to know your phone number. And a lot of people had cell phones. They had a trusted police force, which was the most trusted in all of Latin America, although it seemed to me a precariously balanced situation because they were so poorly paid, and we know how that can lead to issues. A checking account was nearly impossible. It took us 6 months for sure, maybe 7, to get a checking account, because checks were such a volatile instrument. as an example, if I handed Alan a check and he endorsed it, he could take it to a store and use it. A store might accept a check with 5 different signatures on it, which meant that if you lost your checkbook, you were in big trouble and nobody was going to save you from that. But it was also, you had to pay bills in person because of that with checks, and they didn't trust the mail. So there were long lines at certain times of the week and month for paying bills. Then you had to pay and tip the mailman, by the way. And if you bought express distinction for your mail, that was just for appearances. It wasn't a promise. You needed local insurance or a blank check to be admitted to a hospital. And we discovered that. We thought our demonstration of all of the insurance that we had would be adequate. But our daughter had acute appendicitis, and we went to the hospital, and they said, sorry. So we went back to the building we lived in and begged a neighbor to give us a blank check so that we could admit her to the hospital. There were just strong class distinctions everywhere you went. It was even evident on the beach. One class here, another there, or this whole beach for that class and that whole beach for that class. It was evident if you didn't have a maid, then you were a maid. That was a big divide. One of the things that they said, one of the sayings in Chile was, "Todo el mundo quiere andar de corbata." Everybody wants to wear a tie, and tried to. I mean, the maids came to work in street clothes and then changed into the maid uniform, which they wore to go pay the bills for you or things like that. It was grocery shopping, and those lines for paying your bills were like armed combat. But appearances were everything, everywhere. In the hospital, the RNs wore red high heels because they had the same cap as the LPNs, and that was how you distinguished their level, right? I tried to figure all this out. I would read 3 to 5 newspapers a day. And the news media was very polarized, and it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating. But all of them, no matter from the left or the right, had society pages, which were highly influential in this place where appearances are so important. And the society pages were well used by business to sponsor events, get themselves into the news. Race was a problem there, even though a country of over 90% Caucasian. They had pretty much eliminated the majority of their indigenous population long ago. One curious thing that we discovered was there was a community of Koreans who had come after the Korean War, were often people who had left North Korea, and they were definitely discriminated against because they smelled like garlic. Divorce was illegal. And you could get a divorce. The church would grant you annulment. Thank you. The church would grant you an annulment even if you had been married for 36 years. If somebody submitted a paper saying you had put a wrong address on the form. Mm-hmm. The LGBTQ community was invisible. They had a level of courtesy that was really lovely in its way, and then had a lot of contradictions. But if you entered a room, you were obligated to go to each person in the room and kiss them. And when you left a room, you did that same thing on the way out, which meant that nobody was in that room was ever left unnoticed. Everybody was part of it, and I thought that was so interesting. There was always a sweet kind of pleading way of asking for something. It was a little bit put on, and a tremendous formality, even in family gatherings. They didn't risk candor. And we'll talk now about why that is so. If we were with just a taxi driver and clear gringos, they would talk to us about how they really felt what was going on, but never in front of a Chileno, and never two Chilenos, even related, even with only us in the room, would have that kind of a conversation. This all contributed to what they called the La Cosa Chilena, which is their extensive use of euphemism, right? Cover-ups, caring about appearances. The problem is not what happened, but making public what happened. So all of this, of course, you all know, started with the military coup in 1973, led by Augusto Pinochet, Ugarte, the killing of President Allende and the thousands of others, the persecution of dissidents. And this military dictatorship was presented as national reconstruction, essential to follow Allende's economy and Marxist rule. Broad power then was granted to the executive, to Pinochet, to ban entry and expel foreigners. Now we're listening for similarities. They passed an amnesty law right away, granting immunity for human rights violations of the violent overthrow and subsequent violations. There was civilian collaboration as they formed the military government with what they called the Chicago Boys, free market economists who had been trained at the University of Chicago. And they devised a long-term power strategy, a long-term strategy to hold power that included privatization of state industries and utilities like water, like sanitation, of the banks, and of the pension system. Chile was no longer then isolated, but a world-integrated economy where market forces were absolutely free to guide economic decisions, and a very small percentage of people in a country held the reins of power. They put a new constitution in place in 1980, of a strong authoritarian nature with an emphasis on the executive branch and restrictions placed on democratic participation to maintain a social status quo. Even when the economy collapsed in 1982 and the Chicago Boys were fired, it didn't shut down the Reconstruction. Pinochet basically shut down civil society. He prohibited public assembly, used press blackout, censorship, university purges, choked off funding to higher ed and increased tuition. There was curriculum everywhere was changed to reflect government ideology, and a shift towards privatization of education and government's role reduced in education. A cultural blackout, control of what music was aired and what theater was performed. Large cuts to income and social services. The Catholic Church in this time, the most important institution outside of the government, pursued a legal strategy of defending human rights, but there was no political strategy to redemocratize Chile. And there was tremendous corruption at the top. Later, more than 300 charges of corruption would be made against Pinochet. So by the time that we got there, 21 years after 21 years after the coup, 3 years only after Pinochet left office, we saw Chile as a quickly developing country perched on the edge of modernity, although with no numbered highway signs, I would add. driving. So we come to this country that is feeling excitement and optimism. They've got new industry besides mining. They're becoming the second largest, only to Wisconsin, cranberry grower. They're the world's now largest salmon grower. An outpost of the Tate was in Santiago. Elegant art events. They were focused outward to present a singular and a solid image as a nation to the world. But deep inequality festered, and there was no real possibility of change with that 1980 Constitution still in place, and further dismantling of public education. A structural destruction of a democratic government would be a long repair. There was also this culture of fear in tension with lingering here are the two sides of it, a culture of fear and a lingering animosity or confusion toward the Allende economics. And that tension fueled fatigue and a sense of resignation from all classes, longing to move on from an unspeakable past. Only the young people seemed to be able to hold on to any sort of outrage. So survival was in a focus on appearances, the thin veneer of courtesy that allows function but serves as a very fragile and transparent cover to deep, festering wounds and loss. They were determined not to let problems mar their new global image. So I want to just talk about, there's some parallels between Chile 20 years ago, or parallels to what happened to Chile in 20 years from the coup to when we got there, and what has happened in the United States in 4 months. The 20 years and 4 months. Concentration of in the power of the executive, with immunity. Independence of the judiciary is at risk. Corrupt use of power, the government as an instrument, as Jamie Raskin recently said, the use of government as an instrument for class plunder and private self-enrichment. Think about the Chicago Boys' long-term power strategy and Project 2025 that deepened the divide with economic policy that amounts to wealth transfer. The assault on higher education and the goal to privatize K through 12, changing the curriculum to align with the administration's ideologies, and erasing history where necessary. Military enforcement, or what I am seeing, it's happened just more, it was in California, is a growing police state. This is happening. We're seeding and growing a police state in the United States for mass deportation and immigration enforcement. Cultural suppression. Historical discriminatory values that are built on a racial hierarchy that has European heritage as the highest superior level. We see political institutions become weapons. Think about the DOJ or the IRS. And it becomes in Chile, it was very personally expensive, very difficult, personally expensive, to express critical opinion publicly in such a small country. We see something like that in the United States, where it seems to be very personally expensive and almost unthinkable for office holders of the Republican Party to speak with any sort of candor or truth. The Chilean there was a Chilean editorial that lamented the new segregation and discrimination now not of race, class, or beauty that are idiosyncrasies, but discrimination that is territorial, not between rich and poor communities, but between those who only have the privileges of modernity and those who are burdened with its costs. And I think we are also feeling that. So it's not a perfect analogy. Pinochet lowered tariffs while we have a wall of tariffs going up around us. Pinochet granted the central bank independence. We have an opposite push going. Here's a really critical piece that is why it isn't a perfect analogy, because in the 2021 Chilean presidential election, the amount of money spent was $7.4 million. Kind of quaint, isn't it? It's like a fraction of what was in our Senate race in Wisconsin. And in fact, it was 0.015% of what was spent in the U.S. presidential election the year before. That's how many we're talking about. Extraordinary difference. They have public funding. They don't allow corporations or legal entities to give any money to candidates. So the emphasis is on individuals and on public funding. So there's one big difference there is the recognition of the wealth factor here. Chile only has now about 8 billionaires in the entire country, and we have 902. We have an oligarchical class that it has so much power in defining who holds power in our elected offices. I believe we've crossed a line in these last 4 months. I strongly believe it. And that we have redefined who we are for a world, and we're deciding each day as we go what our position in the world is and what our position is at home, with a rapid withdrawal of resources for humanitarian purposes. So this is a moment where in the United States, I spoke of at the beginning of Chile being this orb balancing on the edge of modernity with carrying the weight of its history. I think we are a sphere on the edge of an abyss, and we can give way to a sense of helplessness, resignation, become inured to corruption now on a grand scale and just carry on, or find a way to move through this and find some sort of balance in our lives, because we obviously can't live in a state of high agitation every minute of our waking lives. I have no, forewarning, I have no neat conclusions to offer you, but questions that we need to consider and share with friends and think about how we're doing it as we consider finding balance. What is our civic responsibility in this moment? The political scientist Adam Bonica said, every authoritarian who successfully destroyed judicial independence in a civil society it did so because civil society failed to unite in time. Is there public value to civility without truth? And I pose this question, I've been wanting to ask it. I was so disturbed, and then now it's probably 2 years ago. I've always been really impressed with the League of Women Voters in Door County. In many, 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 many places, much of the country, it's moribund. And here they're active and influential. But at a candidate forum, all sorts of questions about policy were not allowed to be asked because they were declared to be a disruption of civil discourse. This is something people have to consider. Is civility, is there possibly public value in a civility without truth? How do we deal with now this is a practical thing. Right now, in every realm of our lives and in the country, how do we deal with the unreliability of government data? We know it's been changed if you're paying attention, but also the insecurity of our own personal private data in the hands of that government. Are we still reading and watching the news? It's more polarized than ever and difficult to ferret out the truth. And I hear people who say, I just have to turn it off. I don't listen to the news anymore. But I don't agree, because as we looked at the intensity of what has happened in 4 months in this country, if you're not paying attention to the news, you are becoming absolutely oblivious to it, and you are supporting it in that way. It's a tacit approval if you're not engaged in this. Churchill warned that appeasement is like feeding a crocodile and hoping to be the last one eaten. Right now, most resistance is individual. And some of our country's most influential leaders are staying on the sidelines for self-preservation, for themselves or for their industry. This at a time when we need to share the cost of defiance. We need to find strength in collective action. I was thinking about Judy and thinking of the incredible work that Indivisible Door County has done and what it has meant to give us avenues for collective defiance. And not everybody has it. There's a recent Ezra Klein podcast that he interviews a woman who has just written a book about loss, which I forgot to write down and can't remember. You can come to it that way, but it explores the very personal question of achieving balance in our lives between how much we should go in right now and how much we simply move forward. It's like that tension in 1994 Chile between a culture of fear and misinformation about the past that bred certain paralysis and resignation, and a determination for the privileged or would-be privileged to move on. It's a really lovely podcast, or you can read the interview to consider these things. Just yesterday, Nicholas Kristof wrote an editorial that he finds hope that we can win back our country when he looks at other countries' examples. I would put an asterisk on that hope because not one of them came to this level of authoritarianism in such an intense and short time. Competitive authoritarianism is what people are calling what we're living under today. Doesn't mean that all hope must be dissolved, but only that we have to have heightened awareness. We loved being in Chile, and I'll close with this because we also loved being close to every part of Pablo Neruda, and he was, of course, such a critical figure in the history of Chile. One, as the poet. He was a diplomat, he was a state senator, he was an organizer, but he was the poet who won the Nobel Prize in 1971. And when he returned from Stockholm from receiving his prize, he read poetry in the Estadio Nacional to 70,000 Chilenos who gathered to celebrate him, read his poetry regularly. We need more poets. We need more theater. We need to recoup our imagination for a democracy that can function with the common good in mind as it was designed. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Barbara. Please stand now and we'll share hymn 142. Seated, and Cindy, if you would come. We close our service and extinguish our chalice with a blessing from Jan Richardson. Now more than ever, let us be the ones who will not turn away. Let us be the ones who will go farther into the wreck and deeper into the rubble. Let us be the ones who will enter into the places of devastation beyond belief and despair beyond imagining. And there let us listen for the spirit that brooded over the formless darkness. And there let us look again for the one who gathered up the chaos and began to create. Let us be the ones who will give ourselves to the work of making again, and to the endless beginning of creation.